Good evening, and let me have your attention. I really thank you for coming out this evening. I see I have on my Huffman neighborhood shirt, and you may see some others around. And this really is a Huffman initiative, but it's for all of the citizens of Jefferson County. And how it was really made clear to us that we as citizens are going to have to step up. When our flyer went out and had the Jefferson County logo on it, we got a cease and desist letter from the county attorney telling us to stop using that logo. But evidently they don't understand that the government is for the people and run by the people. So it's for us, the people. And we have been hurt, we have been stumbling, we have been blocked by the administration of the county. And we, the people, are going to have to take over our government again. So in one of our neighborhood meetings, we started discussing the sewage system and how that could really affect our property values, how our rates would increase, how it really could kill Birmingham and Jefferson County because of the debt that we are in. Fortunately, in our neighborhood, we had a young lady who is a researcher and who is a doctor and who is really an inspired activist. And she said, well, I'll take it on. I'll be the chairman of the group from our neighborhood. So I want you to welcome Dr. Joan Burroughs, who has worked tirelessly to really come up with the information and the research that citizens need so we can move forward, so we can finally make some decisions for ourselves. Let's welcome Miss Dr. Joan Burroughs.
The sewer debt crisis that we are now experiencing was initiated by the environmental concerns expressed by people in 1988 whose mission was to protect the Cahaba River. Their concerns regarding the potential seepage of sewage into the Cahaba River culminated in a 1993 lawsuit against Jefferson County. Their efforts led to an unfunded mandate by the federal government that initiated this chain of events that we now refer to as the Jefferson County sewer debt crisis. When people, as that group did, organize, investigate, strategize, much can be accomplished. The Cahaba River Society thrives today. I think that we can learn from their action model. An outgrowth of American politics is a complex and complicated legal system that most of us, and I'm referring to most of the people in the neighborhoods that I've lived in, go to great lengths to avoid. The last category of concerns in my discussion is the trek that we must make through the legal/court system in responding to our dilemma. The immense, complex, complicated, and conflicted legal issues require knowledge and skills that place the average ratepayer at a terrible disadvantage. The vast and complex nature of the sewer debt crisis has silenced many of us. We no longer even think about it because we just don't let it happen. A small group of people, however, have carried this burden for us for the past few years. Mr. Richard Finley has been an outstanding and undaunted spokesman on behalf of the ratepayers. I don't think that his wheels ever stop turning. In Attorney Grigsby, we have the brilliant, accomplished catalyst. He is the nucleus and source of the only legal actions that have taken place on behalf of ratepayers. Mr. Richard Finley will now take the floor, and following his presentation, we will hear from the Honorable, most distinguished, and accomplished Attorney Calvin Grigsby.
Thank you, John. I want to thank John, Ted, all of the Huffman neighborhood people. Can I see a show of hands of all of our Huffman neighborhood association members? I want to tell you that we took this information to the neighborhood association. Some of you might remember that last year the Huffman neighborhood issued a letter, a statement about this. That letter led to the Birmingham City Council awarding our legal team $25,000 from this one humble lady from the Huffman Neighborhood Association. All right. I would hope that those of you from other neighborhood associations will follow suit. We have got to get a groundswell of participation. Most people simply don't know. They're too busy working. There are too many other things in their life they don't know. I talked to Brother Walker here earlier today. He's leading the charge in his church. And we really need, the deacon board, the trustee board to step up, because this problem will hurt everybody. Everybody who's on the sewer system will be hurt. The two poorest districts within the county have been unfairly burdened with this debt. Of the 113 or so thousand residential customers, 43,000 of them live on fixed incomes at or below poverty. And if you're living on a fixed income at or below poverty, and the sewer rates will go up every year from now on, you can sit down and calculate at what point you will not be able to pay. And at that point, you can't petition your county commission, because the county commission has abdicated their responsibility to the bankruptcy judge. And the bankruptcy judge will not listen to your plea for mercy. They will simply execute the liens on the property, and they will begin to foreclose on your property. This was put upon us by our government, so it's increasingly on you to be alert, to pay attention. You can't just put people in office and walk away. Amen. You have to pay attention to what's going on. Yes. Also, before the night's over, you know that we're in the midst of a legal fight. We're in the 11th Circuit. We need support. We need financial support. So if you can, we ask all of you before you leave to write a check to the Legal Defense Fund or write a check to Attorney Grigsby in support of the defense fund. And before I turn over the microphone, I would say that, I do knowledge is power on Thursday nights. And it's almost, since we've started this thing, it's almost like every week a miracle occurs. Yes. I've had a man knock on the door 5 minutes before the program was over and handed me a check for $1,000 for the sewer defense fund. We've got to see ourselves as a broader community and recognize that there is so much talent in our community. And there are so many of us who simply want to see right prevail. Amen. And I think that the showing tonight says that there are a lot of people in Birmingham, even though we know that the multitude know nothing about it, but there are so many people who do know and are willing to give up their time to come and put their shoulder to the wheel. I thank you all for coming, and I hope that you will continue to just reach one, and watch this thing spread, and we'll make America be America for us. Ladies and gentlemen, Attorney Calvin Grigsby.
A couple of days. Yesterday morning, David Sullivan and I had a 9 o'clock hearing in Montgomery because we sued the Attorney General. And we sued the Attorney General because the Attorney General gave an opinion after Councilor Tyson went to the Birmingham Water Works Board after she was able to secure the first 25. She went to the Waterworks Board and said, y'all need to give $100,000. And the reason you need to give $100,000 is you already paid your lawyer $300,000 to intervene in the bankruptcy court, because every time the rate goes up and somebody's water gets turned off, you lose revenue because you lose the water revenue.
That's right.
And you need to support the guys who were able to beat the judge. Your guy lost. You know, Charlie Walter called him out.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you.
He lost. Maybe he intentionally lost.
He did. He did.
But we know that he lost, and he picked up $300,000 for losing. So logically, if you've already spent $300,000, why not put a little $100,000 on some insurance? You're already out there. Oh no, we can't do that. Those attorneys, they're not good friends, so we don't help our friends. Well, you got 140,000 people on the sewer system, and all of them going down together. So you're only going to help your friends. You can't take care of this problem. This problem affects everybody. And I asked somebody once, they said, well, why is everybody so quiet? You know, you got the sewer rate is $40 average a month 3 years ago. Now it's averaging $60. But that's the top, and it's going up to $270. The sewer rate increases go up every year for 40 years. It's like being in a tornado. Starts out is 90 miles an hour, and it don't leave your house. It just keeps getting, it gets up to 150 miles an hour, and then it gets up to 300 miles an hour, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. I met with one of your esteemed ministers, and I said, how come you're not supporting the sewer defense fund? How come you're not getting your people to tie to the fund and tie to the church? Well, we're long-suffering people. We're used to suffering, and we'll just continue to suffer. And we will prevail because we're gonna pray and we're gonna prevail. I said, well, I tell you something. Every time that sewer rate goes up, your tie is going down. He said, what do you mean my tie's going down? The people that pay the ties first. I said, before they drink water. So the minister finally hit him. You know, we got a church fund and we got a plan. 10 years from now, we're gonna. And if the sewer rate keep going up, the contribution to the building fund will keep going down.
Yeah.
Now, there is a engineering firm called Raftellus, which is one of the most reputable, largest engineering firms in the United States. Well, when the county was fighting a receiver, they hired Raftellus. And one of the reports says 64% of all the wastewater influent processed at these 8 or 9? Who knows? It's 8 or 9 plants. Comes from people who are not paying water bills. And guess what happens when it rains? Where does all that water go? It's got all kind of stuff in it. There's highways, all kind of gas on the road, all kind of oil that fell off on the road. And it ain't nobody using no water when that water comes off the highways. It's all nasty and everything. Who do you think pays for that? You think the people who live in the more affluent communities pay for that? No. The black community in this area is paying something like 24% of the 36% that's servicing, keeping all that water out of the Cahaba River that when the rain hits. And I asked them, well, how can that be? Well, we have breaks in the system, they said. I said 64% of the wastewater is coming from breaks in the system, and nobody knew about it? Well, you know, we passed a law 2 years ago that said nobody on a septic tank can ever be charged a countywide sewer. What do you call that? Clean water fee. You're paying, as a black community, 60% of the 36%, which 36% of people are paying 100% of the cost. And 64% of the people in this county are getting by with a subsidy from the poorest districts in the county, District 1 and District 2. That's how bad it is. And nobody is yelling and nobody is screaming because it ain't really hit yet. And, you know, we know how to suffer. We've been through a lot as a people. So, you know, medicine's high, rent is high, and we just gonna keep working hard and praying. But I can tell you one thing. That federal judge has now agreed. This is how, and I don't want to use any kind of racial, you know, connotation. But he would not have agreed to have the people in Mount Brook pay 100% of the cost to subsidize District 1 and District 2. He would have, oh no, that is unfair. That's not reasonable. That violates, you know, pay for your use. Everybody should be, you know, we don't need to subsidize those people. They're not working hard. They're just lazy. It's just so unjust. Listen. Yeah, it's costing me a lot of money. But, you know, I done bought my casket on this one.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you. I don't know if you know what that means. But this is. So you can tell anybody working to help somebody ain't gonna hurt you. But getting back to this deal. Because I'm really not practicing attorney. I mean, I was a practicing attorney, but I'm an investment banker. I'm a guy who raises money and finances airports, financial sewer systems. I do the financing. So I came down and I said, listen, J.P. Morgan has bribed everybody in the county. Back in 1999, after the consent decree, and by the way, the consent decree itself says you should have a clean water fee.
Right. Exactly.
Okay? Because it doesn't make sense for all the people who water's running off their yard and the you know the whatever else is going in and all that's going in the sewer and the people who are because they have to be on the water system, you know, and connected to the sewer, they're paying for 64% that they don't use. And the law is very clear on this, if we could ever get to the law. The law says if you pay a fee, no matter what it's called, and the fee is to benefit the public in general, that is a tax. A fee is supposed to be payment for what you use. You use as a group 36%, but you're paying 3 times that money. So you're paying a tax. And why is it that it just so happens that the people who are doing it are mostly black? And it just so happens that the people who make the law that says they have to do it are mostly white. Now I'm not saying there's no racism now. You ain't gonna hear me say that. I'm just saying it's very coincidental. It's sort of an unusual coincidence.
Not in Alabama.
And you notice when Carrington gets up and he said, we have reduced the debt from 3.2 billion to 1.8 billion. And I'm going to write a book about it. Because I want to make sure they build a statue for me right in front of the courthouse. Well, let me tell you how they did that. They had a bond issue. Now, this bond issue that they had back in 2002 already had markup in it of 1.6 billion. The 3.2 he's talking about already had a markup of 1.6 because of all the money J.P. Morgan flowed down into the community. Now, J.P. Morgan gave money to Goldman Sachs, various local firms, to influence being able to do the so-called swap refinancing. And what everybody's got to recognize is that in 2002, you had 2.5 billion of fixed rate mortgage. It's like a mortgage on your house. You had a mortgage, let's say you have a mortgage of $250,000. And they came to you and said, I'm going to give you an adjustable rate mortgage so that you can reduce your payment. And you can reduce your payment down from, whatever it is, $10,000 a month to $8,000 a month. And you go, that sounds great. And you sign an adjustable rate mortgage, and within 3 years, the rate done gone up from 4%. Let's say you're paying 6% on your fixed rate mortgage, and they put you down to 4%. In 3 years, it's done gone up to 10%. And you go, I can't afford to pay 10%. And they go, well, why don't you file bankruptcy? You file bankruptcy, and you find out that instead of owing $250,000, now your loan went up to $350,000. That's what happened to the county. The extra cost to do the adjustable rate mortgage was $1.6 billion. And that's all the money everybody raked off the top. And not $1 went for a project. Not $1 went into the ground. Not $1 went to clean up any Cahaba River. Okay, then the bankruptcy, this is the real tragedy. The bankruptcy was supposed to refinance the $3.2 billion. The debt portion of that, right in the official, when the official statement said 1.8 on the front, you turn to page 66, it says 6.6 billion. So you went from paying with interest the 3.2 billion, which had 1.6 in soft costs, we call it, in it, and it had 1.4 in interest. You went from paying 4.4 billion, which had 1.6 billion in corrupt ripoff in it. And let's not even go back to McNarian, who took the first money, okay? I'm just talking about which level of corruption am I talking about? I don't care. But now, that 3.2 billion was supposedly refinanced for 1.8, and the total debt, which is right in the prospectus, is 6.6. So now, on top of the 1.6 billion that was passed along to the ratepayers, that 1.6 billion that was passed along based on that level of corruption has now, that record has been beat. The bankruptcy approved an extra 2.2 billion on that same 2.5 billion in debt. So the original 2.5 from 2002, which should now be paid down to about 1.5 billion. Right. If they had paid that money on that debt, right, you would only owe 1.5 billion because it's been 15 years. That 1.5 billion is now approved by a federal judge, 6.6 billion, and you cannot elect a commission to change it. Because it's a consent decree and it can be enforced only by the federal court. Now, trust me, they came up with a theory that since they had done the deal and everything was, all the people had gotten paid and all the lawyers had gotten paid, you couldn't unwind that because you don't want to hurt all these rich lawyers. And Judge Blackburn, to her credit,
Yes.
said equitable mootness has to be equitable. And if this was a commercial deal between the guy who owned the apartment building and the bank, I wouldn't touch it. Because they both in business and they taking risks, and that's the way it is. But she said this is not a commercial deal. The sewer is a monopoly, and people have to have the sewer to live a decent life. This has public interest, and I am not going to let the bankruptcy judge rule on this without them having a hearing. And we should applaud Judge Blackburn. That took courage because she is from the country club. And she saw the injustice of, now remember, the county has no obligation to pay any sewer debt. It's passed through 100%. It's just like a guy owning an apartment building, and he's got to deal with the bank, where he could take his money off the top to operate the building, and the rent then goes to pay the bank. And if the rent's not enough, he has to raise the rent. Okay? So, if he raises the rent too high, everybody can move out. How are you going to move out of the sewer system? Go to the backyard? Get a porta potty? So, that's what we got, and we've got them right now. Because we have a judge that's ruled that we get a hearing, and we get a hearing, we can go and say, no one should be forced to pay 100% of the cost, is only using 36% of the project. That's taking without just compensation. Just compensation is when you pay for what you use. If you're paying 64%, you're only using 36%, you're paying more than you use. That violates the Constitution. That's due process. It's taking your money for no commensurate benefit. And the thing that's so outrageous, you have a Constitution a provision called Amendment 73. It is so clear you wouldn't believe it. It says, if you sell some bonds before 1950, and all those bonds have been sold, or you raise the rates to pay for operations costs, or you raise the rates to pay for extensions and improvements of the system, you have to get a vote. Right. Now, in paragraph 4 it says, the county is authorized to fix the rates. Fixing rates means if a guy has a half-inch pipe, he pays this much. A guy has a 1-inch pipe, he pays this much. A guy has so much, pollutants in his flow, he pays this much. Fixing the rates means allocating it among the people in a fair manner. The section that says if you want to put a lien on somebody's house says you have to have a vote, which is the way it is everywhere. Otherwise, it violates due process. All of the lawyers for the county have written opinions, because they've been paid very well, that says, no, the county, the fixing the rates allows you to put the lien on. And based on the ruling that they've already done the deal and we can't unwind it, we're supposed to go away happy. So what I suggest to you is, don't wait for the hurricane to get to be 200 miles an hour. Take me, I'm the weatherman. And I'm telling you, I have seen the numbers, and there's a lot of other people, and it is coming. It's just going to be gradual, and it's going to wipe out most of the wealth of African Americans is in their house. They don't own a lot of stocks and bonds and stuff. It's going to wipe all of the wealth out in this community. All those nice houses, nice neighborhoods, everybody got their yard done. are not going to be worth anything in 20 years. And with that, anybody wants to ask the questions, go for it.
I noticed that it was J.P. Morgan who did the big pledge to UAB with the football and the stadium of, was it 12 million or whatever? And is that the same J.P. Morgan that has this note and has this bill over our head?
Yeah, and it's J.P. Morgan Chase. They're the ones who marked up the swaps by $170 million. And if anybody wants the numbers, just give me your email, and I will be happy to send you the numbers on J.P. Morgan and Chase. I need people to get involved and start to think of ways to get this tragedy out in any form they can get it out in. You know, raise money, tell your friends, do anything, because you got to understand, I'm up against 30 lawyers. Has anybody been in the courtroom?
Yes.
How many lawyers are in there against me?
41 the last time.
45.
Last time it was 41.
Oh, you actually counted up?
Yes, it was 41.
No, I'm not lying. You don't think I'm lying. I be in the courtroom, I'm by myself.
Yes.
David's there to just he's giving me moral support. I'm against 40, 50 lawyers that we can see. And all of them got people behind them writing briefs and things.
Yes.
That's what we're up against. They intend to take this money and keep it. And if y'all don't start fighting back, they're going to get away with it.
There, on the sign-in sheets, we have a little box for you to check yes, so that we can get in touch with you. Please do that when you sign in, so that we can go back and contact people and talk to you and find out what your expertise is and get more input. Okay, we have a question here. This is for Attorney Grigsby. What is considered lower level, the lower level income track? Are they persons' incomes, the income of people, or the ability to pay?
Okay, yeah, there are 42,900 households in what the census defines as low-income census tracts who are on the sewer system. And that's out of about 130 households. So you're looking at maybe 30% of the people who are paying the bills are low income. Now, the federal clean water law, which is the law that required us to clean up for the Cahaba River, states that 2% of median household income is the upper limit of what is reasonable. 2%. So if you make $30,000 a year, I'm looking at there's 50,000 people out of the 130 who are making less than $30,000 a year, and the rates are going up to $200. They're totally unreasonable. But the consultant hired by the county who went in front of the judge said, well, I only went out 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We have paid.
Yes, I'm Sheila Thomas. I want you to know we already have a coalition. And it's been going on for a couple of years. The first 2 weeks I was on the council, Mary and John and Dr. Huntley, all of us got together, and they gave me a letter to submit to the city council for finances toward the sewer defense fund. And we asked for $100,000, and they managed to give us $25,000. Also, we wrote a letter to the water board and went and asked the water board for $100,000, which they just ran it in the ground and made a big ordeal out of it. And they said that we couldn't give the attorneys a gift. We did not ask them that. We asked them to put our attorneys on retainer to represent the water board and the ratepayers, and they would not do that. And you need to go to one of the water board meetings and ask them to give money to the sewer defense fund. But they want to be appointed to the water board, but then you don't want to represent the ratepayers once you get on the water board, and that's a big problem. Yes. And I have a huge problems with that. And we meet on the first Saturday in North Birmingham Library at 9 a.m. in the morning. We meet on the third Saturday at 5 Point West Library at 9 a.m. in the morning. You can go to any Wells Fargo bank and just ask for the sewer defense fund. The account is already set up. No one can take money out of that account. No one can see how much money in the account but Attorney Grigsby. So you don't have to worry about anyone going in there trying to slip in there, steal nothing, because only the account can only be, money can be put in. It can only be took out by the attorneys that we have hired. Put some money in the account at the beginning of the month. With the new budget that we have coming out in July, I will be requesting some more money from the city. We'll be going back to court with the water board. I will let the Attorney Grigsby give you the information that we are going to court on the water board decision on not giving us no money. So I'm going back again, and I'm asking for $200,000 because they made us wait.
Audience member would like to know if you could please explain the time frame and process for the foreclosure process.
Okay. What if you look on the Department of Environmental Services website for Jefferson County, it will tell you that in the event you don't pay your sewer bill, they will request that your water gets turned off after, I don't know how many times you missed. I don't remember the exact, but it's on there. And then they say, in the event you don't pay after a certain period of time, they reserve the right to foreclose a lien on your house under Amendment 73. So what you think is probably going to happen is they're going to let the bill build up for, you know, maybe 6 months or a year or whatever, and then they're going to hire an there are firms who buy these liens, and they pay the county like 60 cents on the dollar, and they're hard-nosed. And they will have a lawyer send you a letter saying, you know, you have not paid your sewer bill, and if you don't pay it within 3 months, the process takes about a year. We're going to foreclose on your house, and you're going to pay us our legal fees, which is going to knock your bill up another 50%. So this is getting ready to happen on a large-scale basis, because think about it, if the bill goes up to $150 a month just for the sewer,
$1,800 a year.
$1,800 a year. And if your house is worth $34,000, if you're making $30,000, how do you get to pay that? And eat and buy medicine and gas and so forth. So the consultant hired by the county said very clearly, Raptelis, back when the rates were $50, that they were unreasonable. And you have to recognize the county also argued they were unreasonable because they didn't want the receiver appointed. Once they got the receiver out, they increased the rates 3 times higher than what the receiver was going to do. And nobody complained. And the only reason you complained about the receiver is that the county controlled the media, and they were complaining about the receiver. So everybody was mad at the receiver because they were going to, when I got involved, everybody was mad at the receiver because he was going to increase rates 25% a year for 3 years, which is a total of about 96%. And now the county has put out this real big lie that if we lose this lawsuit and the sewer warrants are thrown out, it's going to have a mammoth upheaval. We're going to lose our credit, and it's going to cause the county to be put in.
They don't need no credit.
That's the new big lie.
They don't need no credit.
Now you're telling me if we get rid of $14 billion and get it back down to 4, that's going to hurt the county? That's what they just told everybody. They went to New York, and they were given a script when they were in New York. When they came back, that's what they said. And it's absolutely ridiculous. You can't get rid of $14 billion in debt and have your credit go down. So if we win the lawsuit, the credit has to go up. Sure. Don't believe the hype.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I get too excited sometimes.
So now, the next question that we had was, Mr. Grigsby, you used the term unwind the deal. How can we unwind the deal? Please give specifics.
Okay. That was an inadvertent use of the term. What we're really thinking about is how do we have a remedy. The judge doesn't want me to use the term unwind because the judge is concerned about the equitable issues relating to the people who bought the new warrants. So I have changed that terminology to we are going to devise a remedy for the situation that we find ourselves in where the bankruptcy is supposed to reduce the amount that you owe, and in this case, because of the, let's say, well, I wrote it in my brief, because of the fraud on the court. They lied to the judge. Not that he wasn't a willing participant. But they told him they were reducing the debt. Because why do you go bankrupt?
Right.
To get out from under the debt. We went bankrupt, and if you look at the September 30, 2012 audit, there is a page in that audit which has the debt in 2012 on the sewer. The debt in the sewer is 3.1, and they averaged it up, but it was 3.1 billion. The interest was 1.3 billion. 4.4 billion was the debt you went into bankruptcy. We call it in the business pre-petition debt. You came out of the bankruptcy, and the county had the right to take their operating costs out of the revenues before they paid the investor. So the investor had a junior lien that was non-recourse. They didn't have a lien on any of the sewer properties. It was recourse only to the ratepayers' payment. That's why Judge Blackburn said the ratepayers are the only ones who have a stake in this. And the ratepayers are the ones who are not making any noise. So we went from, and I may have lost the question by now, but we went from 4.4 billion to 6.6 billion just in refinancing the 4.4 billion, and then added on top of that was another 5 billion for operating costs, which are locked in. You can't have a commission come in and say we're going to reduce it, it ain't going to happen, because the judge has to enforce it, and another 3 billion. So when you add 8 billion, or 7.8 billion is what it is, to 6.6, you end up with 14.4 billion. And now the investor gets that off the top as a senior lien. And I know, and people say this is so complicated. It ain't that complicated. I never talked to anybody who didn't understand what getting your money off the top means. So they have taken what was a bad deal and made it 4 times worse. And locked it in so that you can't ever, if we don't win the lawsuit, you can never change it. And the guys who made the money were all high-fiving as soon as they got the judge's order. And now they're saying, get Grigsby.
That's okay, we got your back.
So I'll take the next question.
I've got a statement and a question, Calvin. The first statement I want to make is that without Calvin Grigsby, we would know nothing. Absolutely nothing. When this all first started, when it was brought to my attention, Calvin showed all of us how the county had lost $372 million in a series of deals that they had entered into. And the county didn't even know. $372 million missing, and the county didn't know. Now, the people who got the money,
They do.
they knew. They knew. This was written in our audit reports. Warren Avery put it in our audit reports, put it in writing. This should have been front page news. It was not. It was not. All the work that has been done, the unraveling of the swaps to show just exactly what happened, we know because of the work of Calvin Grigsby. And I thank God for it. Because without him, we'd be lost. I'm serious. I don't know anybody else other than him solely that has gotten us to the point where we can still fight. And the fact that we're still in court and still fighting is directly related to his efforts. And I want to thank you. I thank you constantly. And I'm thanking you again. My question is that here recently, there's been some movement in the 11th Circuit concerning mediation. Can you talk to us about that and what that entails and how we can posture ourselves going forward?
Okay, sure. Yeah, this has just happened last week. And the 11th Circuit said they wanted us to go to formal mediation with the county. And that's a tremendous win for us. Because so far the county hasn't even been willing to talk to us. They have acted like we didn't exist, and now we are the ones that they need to talk to because we have a district judge opinion. And they're the appellants. We're the appellees. And people got to understand, we had the bankruptcy court reversed in the district court.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you got, people on the commission still acting like they won. As of right now, we won.
That's right. That's right.
Now, I can't show you the document, but those of us who are plaintiffs know I went out and hired myself 2 really bad boys.
That's right. That's right. Bad to go.
I got a guy named the firm called Housefeld, Hausfeld. Look them up. They just got several $billion settlement from J.P. Morgan, Citibank, Bank of America, and UBS in the foreign currency, the price fixing on foreign currency. These are also the guys who won the lawsuit against the NCAA for using the athlete's image to make money. These are also the guys which is how I met them, who were the lawyers on the municipal derivatives class action, which is a price-fixing class action, and all the attorney generals all around the country. If you pull up derivatives class action, this is the lead law firm. And then they brought in the firm, Singerman firm, Berger Singerman firm, which is a bankruptcy specialty house in Miami that has 2 former bankruptcy judges as partners in their firm. Now, you guys are the first to know because the notice of appearance should be put in tomorrow. Unless somebody, I got a signed agreement. So theoretically, by tomorrow, the notice of appearance will come in, and then the newspapers will say, oh my God.
Yes.
My question is simple. When the county decided to go into bankruptcy, and they looked at a Chapter 9, there are 2 things that the judge should have looked at when the county went into bankruptcy. First is that the deal was fair and equitable to everybody that held bonds. and the second was that the county was negotiating in good faith. The second one, we already know that the county didn't do. They did not negotiate in good faith because they didn't even have an audit to tell us what situation they were in and be able to go back and tell us how the situation even started and how we got all the way up to $28. And the judge on his face should have just thrown that out at that point in time, but instead they let us come back in, and we know that the revenues they had at the time, which was a little over $105 million a year, they did not use that to service the debt. They only paid on the interest part of it. So we're asking, why was that not an issue in the bankruptcy?
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. That's are you a lawyer?
No.
Are you going to go to law school? Okay. It's worse than that. The county has now raised the rates 4 times higher than what the receiver was going to raise it. Now, what does that mean? The test for filing bankruptcy is that you are unable to pay your debts when they're due. Not unwilling. Unable. Well, if they could just raise the rates last year, they were able to pay before they filed bankruptcy. All they had to do was raise the rates. And the reason they didn't raise them, a lot of people think, is that they were worried that since the rates were coming from the black community, they would lose their third majority on the board. Because people would vote against them.
That's right.
Because they weren't willing to take that chance. And so now we got politics merging in the legal, and the bankruptcy was not because of the county's inability to pay their debt, because the school bonds, for example, are backed by a 1-cent sales tax. You're telling me you got a 1-cent sales tax and you're unable to pay that? Sure, you can pay that. The GO bonds were only $200 million, and they were backed by a absolute statutory tax that's given to every county in the state. The lease on the Bessemer Courthouse was a year-to-year lease. All you need to do to get rid of that lease is just leave the building, give it back. That's all you had to do. They had no liability on that lease. And all of they say, well, we lost our occupational tax. Well, that means like any other government. You lose some money, you cut the budget.
Yeah.
That don't mean, that's not a debt. That just means you're just like anybody else. When your revenue goes down, you cut your budget. So the thing that people don't realize is the bankruptcy was designed to get a judge to lock in the rates so that you would be disenfranchised, so that you could not elect commissioners.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with unable to pay. Because if they're unable to pay, how can they increase the debt? And so there's a lot of what we don't have. They're churning out the propaganda machine. They're doing the talking, and they're lying through their teeth.
The next statement is more of a comment than a question, but this one is a question. I think that it's from David, and he wants to know how was District 1 and 2 distinguished as responsible for this debt? And why are we not asking for federal help through our congressional representatives?
Okay. Yeah, that's the law firm that your congresswoman works for just got a big check from the last bond. Okay. She ain't not interested.
Say it again. Repeat.
No, I'm just saying that your congresswoman's law firm just got a big check from the last bond. And she is not interested in helping y'all. The reason District 1 and District 2 are most affected is because those are the districts that pay most of the 34% that it's hard for me because I don't necessarily know the county. Y'all know the geography of the county. But the plants circle District 1 and District 2. And all the rainwater and dirty water from all of the county flows into the sewer for free. Because we don't have clean water. And the people who pay the entire bill, 65 to 70% of them live in District 1 and District 2, which is the city of Birmingham. Here's a crazy statistic. And why you have a county that doesn't seem concerned. Only 40% of the sewer users are county residents, and 65 are city residents. So the county, which is the one who raises the rates, only has 60% of their people that are not on the sewer. A majority can vote to raise the rates because they're not paying. The people who could help in Birmingham, except we have a notable exception in Councilor Tyson, just seem to be bought up. I mean, I've met with people on the council. You don't have any dummies on that council. What you have is people who don't care because they have other interests. So don't get me started.
Ma'am, before you go, let me answer the other part of that question. Let me give you the other part of that answer.
Yeah, go ahead. You know better than I do.
In 1901, the Alabama legislature passed a law that said that every county in the state of Alabama, their county commissioners had to be responsible for running the sewer trunk lines throughout the county. What Jefferson County did, they only ran the trunk lines to Birmingham, part of Bessemer, and the only reason Mountain Brook is in it is part of Mountain Brook where you go in from Eastwood Mall. All of that used to be in Birmingham. That's the only reason they have trunk lines. When you leave Birmingham and go into Fultondale, all the way up to Kimberly and Mars, to the county line going north, there's no trunk lines. In Bessemer, the only place they ran the trunk lines was the part of Bessemer where the black people live. They never ran them on you going down 5920. They never ran them on the south side of Bessemer because at that time, the majority of your wealthy people in Bessemer lived there. So they never ran them there. Then when you got to Mountain Brook and Vestavia, they stopped at the part of Mountain Brook that leaves Eastwood Mall. It stops right there at the city line. It never went to Vestavia. It never went to any other parts. And I was able to get the map.
Can you explain how the water flows to the Cahaba River? How it has to flow past the sewer to get to the
Right. Because
if it rains, how it has to flow.
And you got your pumping station that the only one they had at that time was the Cahaba pumping station. So all of your water is flowing past that pump station.
And they have a break in the
that
line.
they pulled in there. So if they tell you they got a break in the line, then the break in the line is all the pipes underground. So when the Cahaba women filed a lawsuit to say that the sewer was leaking, they never added the septic tanks. The septic tanks are leaking too. But the county, the only time the county tried to extend the trunk lines was when Larry Langford got to be the chairman of the county commission. And he took all of the money from the sewer department to start expanding those trunk lines. They had a plan to go up to Kimberly and Mars, north of Birmingham, to go southeast and west of Birmingham, And on the plan they had, Mountain Brook would have been the last city added, and the rationale is Mountain Brook has too many rocks, too many curves, so they knew they was gonna have to spend more money to do Mountain Brook. And because this had not hit ahead, and I started doing my research in 2005, I got a copy of the map. So since then, it's very hard to get a copy of the map since all of this came out. But that's how I could trace it, and I studied that map and wrote that map throughout Jefferson County to get a better understanding of what the county had done you tell me, from 1901 to 2015, they've never been able to complete the trunk lines. So that adds to how it got to be Birmingham with the largest number of sewer customers. And the next largest you'll come up with is Bessemer.
So when they go to the top of that county, they have to worry about it.
When the deal was structured to take the fixed rate warrants and refinance them with variable rate warrants, the reason that was done is because when you do a variable rate deal with a swap, you don't have to report legal fees on a swap to the state finance director. If you do a regular fixed rate bond deal, everybody's fees has to go on a report and go to the state. And you have to, not gouge too much. When you do an adjustable rate warrant, you can charge as much as you want. And all the lawyers can get paid as much as you want to pay them. And all the financial consultants and all the political hangers around. And the only thing worse was the bankruptcy. When they closed that bankruptcy, they did the same thing through the bankruptcy judge. So the remedy, we're not going to unwind anything, but we're going to try to get an effective remedy to take some of this money back. And don't think a federal bankruptcy judge ain't going to have any mercy on you because he's there for life.
Right.
And you don't have to elect him. All that process is over. And that's unconstitutional. There's a constitutional amendment called the 10th Amendment. That amendment says all powers not expressly given by the Constitution are reserved to the states.
Yes.
It's illegal for a federal judge to take over fixing rates for local utilities. The county has 3 studies that all study whether or not you go over the 2% median household income, and they all say it is not affordable if you get past $60 a month. The county already has that study, but when they had the public hearings, they never used any of those studies. They got a brand new guy out of Atlanta. And he got up there, and I cross-examined him in the, if you came to the courtroom, and he said, well, I'm sorry, but we never really did a study on whether or not the income level could afford it.
They on experts say.
Cat, real simple. What happens when the bank stop loaning money? When they stop loaning money because of the fact that the way they set the system up, what happens if the banks stop loaning money?
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, sure. All right. What you got to recognize is that a municipality has an exemption for its debt from federal taxes. The bank is never going to stop loaning money to Jefferson County because when they loan money to Jefferson County, the guy who loans the money don't have to pay no taxes. So when they're telling you, oh, we can't afford to piss off Wall Street, where do you think Wall Street's following the money? And if you got a tax-free bond coming from Jefferson County, if we're able to come up with the appropriate remedy, then everyone who owns the existing sewer warrants will exchange that warrant for a warrant with a lower interest rate worth 80% of what the warrant is worth now. And they will do that because the warrants that were issued unlawfully. And that's why we need that legislation on Amendment 73. And so when we if we can get past this appeal, that means we get into court. We don't have any problem proving these rates unreasonable because we can take it right out of the mouth of the county because they argued they were unreasonable back when they were trying to argue against the receiver. I have all their reports. I don't need any new reports to show that it's unfair and unconscionable and violates the Federal Clean Water Act standards for lower income persons. I don't have to go anywhere but pull out the stuff they already did. And so, and they disguise it. And let's have meetings in different places, different neighborhoods, community groups. And let's expand that. This lawsuit is getting ready to move very quickly. We need to stay on this. And really just cut out the time and do this as a matter of routine. Somebody said, well, how much do you need? I'm trying to save you money. I don't want you to take the money that you're going to use to buy medicine and I'm just saying $20 and then get all of your friends to get $20 and we can get through.
Councilor Tyson, when is the next meeting?
The third Saturday in 5 Point West Library.
The third Saturday, 5 Points West Library.
9 a.m.
9 o'clock. We would like to see everybody there, and we will follow up with letters and notices if you signed in. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you all for hosting. Thank you all.